All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. What is going on? How y'all doing? We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, Colin, Twitter. If you're watching on Twitter, you can. There's a chat box on Twitter. You can comment. So get in the comments on Twitter. If you're watching there, go ahead. Don't be shy. It's not that hard. Or maybe it is, but it doesn't seem that hard for me. If you're watching on Twitter, you just, on the bottom of the video, it says what emergency. You just click on what emergency, and then you'll come to a window where you can see the video, and on the right there's a chat box, and you can chat there. There you go. But what's up, people? How you doing? We're on Colin, and the phone lines are open for about 10 minutes. If anybody wants to call in and give a thought, we'll get you in the beginning. What's up, Jazz Farm? How you doing? Max Sarjay. Extra Bola. Osama on the Rockfins says howdy. All right, people coming in. That's cool. Phantomus on the call-ins. I see you. All right. Real quick, just to give you guys a heads up, I don't think I'm going to do a show tomorrow on either Blackburn News or Octo. Don't think there's going to be a show on either. I just have some things to take care of, and I got some music projects that I'm working on that really, really, really need to be completed. So, and it takes me a good all the shows all together. It takes me a good like 3 or 4 hours out of my day, which is, if it's a work day, right? If you're working for 8 hours, that's half the day. So sometimes I need to put in some other work in other places. And 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours is being conservative. But anyways. But we will do an Octo show today at noon, right, the regular time, if you guys want to come on over. Not time seeing. That's a good idea. Fill in with Andy Griffith episodes like they do in Baseball Rain Delays. Yes. It's a good idea. Well, I like how AM Wake Up has a independent review on Fridays. It's kind of a cool fill-in. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea to just like play some videos for people to watch. Right? That doesn't take like a lot. I guess you just line up some videos, right, and just do a live, press play, and you don't really have to do much, I guess. Not a bad idea at all. Jackson Messer says civilizations rise quickly, fall faster, and then there is an interregnum. We have not the first, won't be the last. Mainstream historical narrative is a lie. Yes, rise quickly and fall faster, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Jackson. Really good point. We're in that space where it's kind of obvious that things are falling apart, but people really don't want to people really don't want to take stock. And don't get me wrong, plenty of people do. We'll say what? Uh, yeah, plenty of people do take stock. Plenty of people do want to be aware. Plenty of people do want to take. By the way, we have an insane windstorm going on. How are you doing, Jazz Farm? Are you getting plowed under by snow? It was a big snowstorm. Anyways, we have a crazy windstorm going on here, like an insane windstorm. And here's the thing. We've been getting more of those too. I have noticed. I'm not imagining. My memory is not faulty on this one. We have things called Santa Anas here. And we do get high winds sometimes, but I've noticed that in the last few years, the number of really heavy windstorms that we get is really increased. I mean, we usually get like maybe one or two kind of crazy windstorms a year, but we get them all the time. We get crazy rainstorms, and then we get crazy windstorms, and then crazy rainstorms, and they seem to happen like back to back. So we just had, over the last month, a bunch of just very heavy, atmospheric rivers, whatever you want to call it, rain events, super heavy rain events. We got just a ton of rain. And in between all of those, we got some winds, but now we're just getting like these massive. I mean, this is we're getting some heavy wind. I'm to the point where I'm worried about trees coming down. It's heavy. It's a very heavy windstorm. Jazz Farm says city is getting hit, and so are the foothills. We're out on the plains, haven't seen much yet. Above Boulder, around 30 inches. Huh. I don't know, Extra Bullet. I mean, I don't have high hopes for technology like that, but here's the thing. I've seen quite a few, and I don't know, you guys could say maybe these videos are fake. I've seen enough videos and claims that you can run a car off of water, and that people that figured out how to run their car off of water just disappear all of a sudden, or they're like, hey man, I just got this great new thing I figured out how to run my car off of water, and then like the CIA comes and visits them, or I'm sure there are plenty of power sources out there. Tesla, famously, all of his isn't it Donald Trump's dad that owns a lot of the Tesla patents? I think that's true. Man, a lot of sirens too. Sirens all morning from this windstorm. So a lot of people are experiencing some heavy problems. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but like the door to my studio is like going crazy. It's really strong. His uncle, Osama, right? Yeah, Donald Trump's uncle owns. Yeah, right. Famously, he didn't die a rich man, right? And they basically took his patents, not to use them, but to hide them. Anyways, all of that should have been discovered, implemented, and used 60 or 70 years ago, or 80 years ago, and now it's too late. Now we've destroyed the planet, so it's a little too late for that. I mean, sure, if we could G. Demarest says John George Trump was an American electrical engineer, inventor, and physicist, a professor at what, MIT? A microclimate rogue wave. Yeah. So, yeah. Osama, yeah, hydrogen not very energy efficient. What's up, Rockfin people? Where are you at? Where you be? Again, Twitter people, if you're watching on Twitter, you can chat and on the side, and I can see your chats on the StreamYard and on the Twitter. So feel free. Speak up. Don't be shy. Jackson Messer says prior civilizations who built all old world buildings used passive free electromagnetic electricity generation. Huh. What you mean? Explain. Oh, I love to experience the passive free heat. I mean, so interestingly, in my studio, I don't really have any insulation, which is, insulation is a two-way street, right? But what's nice during the day, like even though it's my house, my studio is kind of like a greenhouse. So during the day, even if it's cold outside, if the sun is shining, the radiation like heats up my studio. So it's kind of nice and warm in here, even though it might be cold outside. That's because I don't have insulation. My house is another story. A house has insulation, so it takes much longer for the house to heat up. It might take all day long. I might get a little bit of passive heat in the house. The problem is when it's hot in the summer, it takes all night to release that heat, so it stays hot all night. It might stay cool a little bit longer in the morning, but like it really like holds on to that heat. Whereas again, in my studio heats up really hot in the summer, but gets rid of the heat very quickly, so it can be quite comfortable out here at night. Let's see. There's a reason why Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower looks like a Capitol building or a cathedral. Huh. Okay. The Giza pyramids are power generators. Yeah. There's something to be said for the old technology, isn't there? A lot of it worked and worked very efficiently. All right. Well, no takers on the call-in, so I guess we'll leave that maybe later. Let's see, where are we at? God dang it. We're just getting blasted. It's so strong, like I had to I have a gate to my yard, and it won't stay shut. The window's so strong it just will not stay shut, even with the latch on it. So I had to like wire my gate shut. And my yard is full of recycling because it knocked over my recycling bin and blew everything in my recycling bin like all over my yard. So now, I'm not even going to do anything about it right now, but I'm going to have to later go out and pick up all the recycling out of my yard. All right. Yeah, you're right. Extra Bulla. If Tesla had been given a decent amount of funding, we'd be in Jetsons world right now. Yeah, They really don't want, that's kind of the limited thinking of the people in charge, right? Instead of allowing things to get, instead of actually allowing, something like a utopia. I know that people are like, "Oh, utopia is silly, stupid." No, well, no, actually, you can do very basic common sense things that make everybody's lives better and can make the planet better and can make things work better, but they don't want to do that. They don't want things to work better or make things easier for people. They just want to tax you to death, steal all your wealth, and and live high on the hog for the moment. And I just, they're not very smart. Maybe there's a breakaway civilization, according to Catherine Austin Fitts, which maybe, and they're already living the utopian life somewhere, behind the moon or something. I don't know. Or maybe they have all this, technology on a black site somewhere, and they're just waiting for everything to fall apart, and they can whip it out and go like, "All right, now we're going to live the good life." But I mean, they're stuck on stupid, and because of it, we are stuck on stupid because we can't see, we can't see our way around to actually overturning them or overthrowing them. Basically, is a better word for it. Andrew Grattan. You can always say to yourself, "I'm so woke, I'm recycling recyclables." Yeah, that's how woke am I? All right. Well, this from Climate Watcher. Showing a amount of virgin forests, right, in the U.S. in 1620. This is about when we got here and started doing stuff. Well, I know it was earlier than that, but virgin forest. And we chopped all that virgin forest down. All of it. Today. Little tiny black specks of. And this is what, this is what humans do. If you want to, if you're like, "Oh, humans don't impact," what? Oh, they're trying to tell you that humans are destroying the planet. What? I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, that's probably just a bunch of woke nonsense. Those climate change fear mongering people, they're trying to tell you that humans are bad. I don't know. Yeah, no, they're not bad at all. You're right. You're right. Humans are fine. It's fine. We're only doing the good stuff. My bad. Major storm in Colorado closes schools, offices, and highways. So Denver is expected to receive up to 2 feet of snow. As city rolls out the plows and airport braces for delays and cancellations, a major snowstorm has hit Colorado, closing numerous schools and government offices on Thursday, shutting down sections of highway leading to the Denver area. As meteorologists warned of difficult to nearly impossible travel. Our city hasn't seen a storm like this in a few years. Denver's Mayor Mike Johnson posted Wednesday on X, formerly known as Twitter. We have to say all that. The snowstorm comes as other parts of the United States face severe weather. Massive chunks of hail pelted parts of Kansas and Missouri on Wednesday night, with storms unleashing a possible tornado in Kansas. Extreme weather. Jazz Farm says they call flurries a storm these days. Yeah. Airport has no snow yet, so they're hyping this, I guess. Okay. Colorado storm, which began on Wednesday night, was not expected to wind down until Friday. Sections of Interstate 70 were closed in the Colorado mountains. Okay. Is this a big nothing, Jazz Farm? Big nothing burger, or is this like when LA gets some rain sometimes? I don't know. We've been getting some very major rainstorms. So back in the day, they would go like, extreme weather 2000 Doppler radar, right? And a little like misting would come through, and they're like, we're going to watch out for the rainstorm. The storm's coming in. A little mist. But I don't know. Lately, last couple of years, they're like, we're going to get some rain. Actually, we get rain when they don't even say we're going to get rain. So I'll just be sitting in my house, and all of a sudden it'll just start raining buckets for about 8 hours straight. And I'm like, I didn't even see that. Nobody told me about that one. So I don't know. It's a good post from Steve Austin. This is a live look at every merchant ship right now. Some people believe we're going to replace the power plant of every one of these ships with electricity or zero emission fuels within the next 25 years. Stop laughing, he says. These are all the ships bringing us all the stuff, burning bunker fuel. Well, there's a law against burning bunker fuel now, right? But they're burning fuel, burning a lot of fuel. That's a lot of ships. That is a ton of ships. We're just shipping and shipping. Yeah. And we're going to make all these. What's the time frame? He says within 25 years, we're going to make these zero emissions. I mean, I don't know. You know how we're going to make them zero emissions? The world economy is going to collapse, and there won't be any shipping. Or there'll be very few ships out there because it'll be really expensive. So that'll make a lot of those zero emissions if they're parked. If they're parked in a port somewhere. Let's see if he has any other thoughts here. Oh, somebody says, don't forget nuclear. Okay. We're going to nuclearize them. We'll make these ships nuclear. Honestly, that's probably the first, that's going to be the go-to for ships. We already have nuclear powered ships. Before batteries and before anything else, nuclear would probably be the first option. Leon Simons, the 365-day streak of record high global sea surface temperatures. We are in uncharted territory. As crazy as it may sound, global sea surface temperatures have now been at an all-time record warm for an entire year. This is perhaps one of the most absurd and alarming graphs I have ever plotted. We've been watching this. Yeah, we have nuclear powered aircraft carriers. Yeah. That's already been a thing. So as crazy as that sounds, that's probably how they're going to try and do it. Nuclear energy. Where do we put the fuel? How do we make the fuel? You know, it's really hard to make the fuel. Very expensive. Very energy intensive. Well, what do you think, guys? Where is this going? This graph. You think the temps are going to come back down into some kind of range, or are we just setting up a whole new range? We got a whole new arranging. Man, the crews are out. I think there's probably transformers down and trees down all over the place because the wind is really strong. And we have had a lot of rain, so the ground is somewhat soft from all the rain. Jem Bendel. In 2018, folks like me and Rupert Reed called for an emergency plan for food security in UK to cope better with more extreme and frequent floods, droughts, cold blasts, and heat waves at home, plus more likely disruptions to international supply chains. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When things get hairy, all those ships are going to stop shipping. Ain't that the truth? The mainstream ignored, and even the green leaders disparaged us. He's retweeting Steve Austin. It's not a headline from the future, but rather today. Climate crisis is ultimately a food crisis, which we actually already we talked about. But we're seeing a lot of this, right? We're seeing it everywhere. Weather disruptions, heavy rainfall, or drought, or a combination of both, really impacting crops and then impacting prices of food, etc. But what he's saying though about, where are the emergency plan? Like, it's interesting. Again, I like to bring to your attention, right? Like the people that are the leaders, whoever they might be, the World Economic Forum or anybody, are talking about climate change, are always talking about it as, a problem in the future, and they're trying to target certain things. They're trying to implement some things like, like cleaning up ship fuel, which is actually leading to an increase in temperature, right? According to many. Right, they're trying to implement a few things like, farmers, you got to cut your nitrogen, or you got to farm in different ways, or, they try to tinker around the edges, twist the knobs a little bit. But like nobody in a position of authority is saying, well, that's not true. Actually, let me rewind that. There are a few people out there saying like, we really are in trouble But the fact that people aren't, in a really coordinated way, like again, if we treated this like COVID, if we communicated the emergency like they communicated COVID as an emergency, right? People would listen. People would go, "Oh, it's I mean, you're saying like it would be scary, of course, but if they were saying like, yeah, in like 3 or 4 years, nothing's going to be the same. We're going to have some real problems. There probably won't be a lot of supply chain left. We could see the end of a lot of harvests, right? What are we going to do about this? This is an emergency, and we should probably start like right now trying to figure out how to cope our way out of this. And you don't see anything like that. And if it is an emergency, and it is, right? Like, because global food supply being majorly disrupted by the inability to grow foods at scale, impacting people within the next 5 years, right, in a major way, that's an emergency, right? That's actually a freaking emergency. That is an actual real threat. And you don't really see people talking about it in those terms because because they're worried that they're going to scare the children. That's right. That's why. But that's actually, where we should be. But they're not really allowing people to have those conversations or, and this is why there's censorship on social media and on YouTube and on, throttling and shadow banning and, right? Like, they don't mind if you're talking about climate change, but just don't talk about it in the particular way in which it's actually an emergency. If you're doing that, then we're going to have to limit your reach. He goes on to say, it is sobering to note that the best modeling of food security available to us has predicted a major disruption to international grain markets within 3 years of passing 1.5 C global average warming. Well, guess what? We are there. You're at the mall. You're trying to figure out which way is JCPenney. And you go to the map and it says you are here. We are here. We're at 1.5 C. And we have passed 1.5 C. So within 3 years of passing 1.5 C, that's what the modeling gives us. We have 3 years until we experience a major disruption. Depressingly, the experts working on such matters in the UN, international NGOs, academia, and consulting firms mostly maintain the fraudulent framing of sustainable development and the SDGs, which the world is obviously not progressing on, thereby delaying serious engagement with adaptation is deadly. Oh, let me just read this. And experts who should have known better are guilty of that. Yes, and it just points to the dance that they're doing, the game that they're playing, which is like climate change is real and it's it's going to be pretty bad, but not too bad, and it's going to be really in the future, and hopefully we don't hit 1.5. I mean, how long are they going to be able to carry hope we don't hit 1.5 soon thing forward when we're at 1.5. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. and we're past, for the last 6 months, we've been past 1.5, right? And I know all the scientific skeptical types are going to be like, well, but you have to average the temperatures and over a long period. Not really. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. If you're working on a longer scientific time scale, you would. But we don't have, we're not working on a long scientific time scale. We're working on a short term, if you look at it as a short term emergency time scale. And if you also look at climate change as a thing that's progressing and it's progressing at an exponential rate, it's not progressing at a linear rate. There's also a graph that proves that somewhere in my notes. That, the idea that climate change is going to reverse or go backwards, or that we're going to, this is a high, and like the stock market, it hits a high and then we're going to hit a dip. I mean, we might roll back a little bit, but not much. And the idea that we're going to continually progress upward as far as CO2 levels, methane levels, and temperature levels, and that's just a given. That's just assume it's going to go up, because there's nothing, what is the physical force that's going to send that going in the other trajectory? There isn't one. There is not. There isn't a mechanism. There isn't a negative feedback that's going to stall what's going on. So it's going to progress and it's going to get worse. So, if you're working on a short emergency time scale and you know that things are going to get worse, you should treat it as such and treat it like the serious issue that it is, and not just like some compartmentalized scientific idea. But probably not going to happen. Probably not. Phantoma sent me this. Climate change is turning prisons into death traps. Let's look at this one. Yeah, I'm telling, I'm going to say, prison is not a place you want to be in this time. If you can really do your best to not go to prison, it's a really not a good time to go. I was, during COVID, I was like, damn, the world locked down, and I was thinking about the prisoners in prison, like the world locked down and you were in prison. Damn it. That sucks, because imagine being in prison and everything shutting down, and, I'm sure people showed up to work to feed them. But what if the world shut down to an extent, what if there was just something so major, a war or electromagnetic pulse, or, the grid goes down for several weeks and you are fucking stuck in jail? Oh my God. Yeah, that just sounds like a nightmare to me. And yes, as climate change is going forward, you do not want to be in jail. So, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Or I don't know what to tell you. Of course, if you go out and protest something that the government is doing that you don't like, chances are you could go to jail. If you go show your face, in a resistance kind of way, I don't know if there could be a limited amount of time before they start going, well, you said a bunch of government things on your old YouTube channel there back in the day. We're going to come get you for those things that you did years ago. Sorry for your luck, pal. So, I mean, pick your poison, I guess, but really try and stay out of jail if you can. I don't know. If you can do it. Whatever you do, don't do something really dumb and go to jail. If you're going to go to jail, make sure it's for something, at least, something real. I don't know. But who knows? I mean, They changed the tax codes. All of a sudden, people are getting sued. Ryan Christian is getting audited by the IRS for like something that like 12 years ago that he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, hey, so they can pretty much do anything. They could be like, hey, did you do this thing like 8 years ago? And you're like, what thing? What are you talking about? Yeah. Remember this post you posted? Yeah, we thought this was illegal. Well, it wasn't illegal then, but it's illegal now, so we're going to take you to jail for that. I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, climate change is turning prisons into death traps. Heat waves and floods are making California prisons increasingly unlivable. The state needs a better plan to address that. Jesse Milo began serving a 200-year prison sentence, youch, when he was 21 years old. Oh, man. During the summer of 2022, at the Corcoran State Prison, where he was housed, underwent a scheduled power outage. Oh, my God. Yeah, that sounds like the worst. While prisoners were locked in their cells, the ventilation was completely shut off in the housing units with no airflow. The temperature monitors in the cells showed 98 degrees. As an elected member of the Inmate Advisory Council, which acts as a go-between for the incarcerated population and staff, Milo went from cell to cell, checking on the elderly population in their 70s and 80s. The old guys were getting lightheaded and sweating, said Milo. The guards wouldn't even open their cell doors so they could get a little more air. Milo, now 43, feels he grew up behind bars and sees prisons as communities that need to be livable. Right now, many prisons are failing that test. It's not equipped to handle the population without harming the health, he said. There's black mold in the chow hall, leaky roofs, and during the summer months without air conditioning, the housing units stay over 90 degrees. When Milo asked the administration about repairs and upkeep of the prison, he said he was told that there were no plans for improvements because there was no money in the budget for them. No matter the problem of emergency, including infectious diseases such as cold, staphylococcus, and norovirus, the problem is exacerbated by overcrowding. To find out how the incarcerated population feel about housing conditions and emergency preparedness, we teamed up with the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights and the University of California, Los Angeles to produce Hidden Hazards Report. More than 2,200 surveys were sent to incarcerated people in 25 prisons. Their names came from EBC's mailing list. Using both randomized selection and snowball sampling, the survey collected firsthand experiences and perceptions of more than 560 incarcerated people. The conclusion was that incarcerated Californians face life-threatening risks from wildfires, extreme temperatures, and flooding. The survey identified 18 prisons with about 46,000 incarcerated people at risk. The survey's report shows that there is no mention in the state's emergency plans to respond to climate emergencies in state prisons. The emergency plans do, however, make plans for vulnerable populations. What's most shocking to me is how even in cases where the prison did have an emergency plan, the plan was not followed during an emergency. Sounds about right. It appears that the normal reaction was to lock incarcerated people in their cells, which I believe increases their level of vulnerability. Yeah. The Hidden Hazards Survey and report shows that prison officials have not prepared a course of action or even explored ways to reduce the harm that incarcerated people face as floods, extreme temperatures, and wildfires hit California prisons. As climate hazards are increasingly affecting prisons, officials persist in a reactive policy of don't look up, as in the movie in which a planet killer comet is headed for Earth. When top scientists inform government officials, their response is to ignore the bad news. As incarcerated journalists, Brooks and I find it troubling that prison officials provide state lawmakers with minimal information on the emergency preparedness of the state's prisons. Evacuations are described in a limited way, and procedures for fires, floods, and earthquakes are so narrow that it leaves questions about how prison officials will keep incarcerated people safe. Concerns are rooted in prison officials' long and extensive history of past failures that cost people their lives. The most recent example was the 2020 COVID-19 outbreak at San Quentin, where 28 incarcerated people and a corrections sergeant died. In 2011, the San Quentin's population nearly doubled its design capacity. There was an outbreak of chickenpox, but instead of reducing the population to ease the disease's ability to spread, a mitigation tactic was adopted: lock people in their cells, which is the same tactic used to combat San Quentin's annual influenza outbreak. In 2015, Legionnaire's disease found its way into a newly built healthcare facility building. The source: shoddy construction of a poorly maintained ventilation system. Though each incident could have served as a wake-up call, the warnings went unheeded, and subsequent planning for the next emergency never materialized. With little accountability, there is little incentive for prison officials to proactively institute more humane policies rather than reacting to state directives in the wake of individual crises. To avoid the loss of life during these imminent dangers, the survey recommends cutting the incarcerated population in half, but closing prisons with a massive release would generate public outrage. The Hidden Hazards Report does offer achievable solutions. Brooks and I believe adopting its recommendations would significantly reduce the risk of death to a dependent and vulnerable population. First, the state's emergency plan should be changed by recognizing the vulnerability of incarcerated people, which would be in line with Governor Gavin Newsom's March 2023 proposal to make California prisons as humane as possible. In addition, this would let the incarcerated population know that policymakers want life in prison to be as close as possible to life outside of prison. In addition, the state should establish a minimum standard for emergency plans and require prison officials to develop a biannual report defining the protocol and resources on hand to carry out the plan. Tracking the number of climate hazards at each prison would provide added accountability to prison officials. Finally, we need increased funding for heating, air conditioning, ventilation, shade structures, and backup generators, which are reasonable facility upgrades. What people fail to realize, Milo told us, is that the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, or CDCR, does not measure the heat index in the housing unit cells. Golly. Which is the actual true temperature impacting the body. So when the monitor reads 98 degrees in the cell, the heat index temperature is around 110 degrees, and that's dangerous for anyone's health. If CDCR can't house people in a way that doesn't put their lives at risk, then prisons like Corcoran need to be closed. Well, I don't know if they're going to get around to implementing these changes before the you-know-what hits the fan. So the best advice I can give you is don't go to jail if you can. Really, really try. Really, really try not to go to jail. But it's a little. I know that it's a little silly. I'm being a little silly in saying that, because increasingly we have some in the United States, some of the biggest prison populations in the world, and that's going to be the answer to people, to the government not liking, anybody doing anything right. The answer is going to be to increasingly to lock people up. Unfortunately, right? We're going to be we're going to move increasingly more towards a prison colony state, right, where everything is everybody's getting locked up for everything, everything and anything. So, yeah, I know. Schulte, that was a weird part. Prisons make them like the outside so people don't feel like they're in prison. Or just make the outside the prison. We'll all live in an outdoor prison pretty soon. I mean, we're kind of, if you really want to, look at it that way, we're not very far from it. Didn't check in on the Rockfins in a while. What's up? What's up, people? What's up, Denver? Laura? Yeah, there's also that's what's interesting to me is there's no money to upgrade the prisons, but so many of the prisons are privately run now. And of course we know privatizing is always the best, according to the libertarians and the agorists. Oh, just let the free market, just let people do the right thing with their dollars and their companies. Really? Okay. Are you sure about that? I mean, maybe some of them will, sure, but like the trend, or that people and companies and corporations tend to maximize profits to the detriment of people's health and livelihood. That's just how it goes. So you need some kind of regulation in there to make sure that people are doing things in the correct way and obeying laws and whatnot. I don't know how that's kind of simple. It's kind of a simple concept to understand, but people just really can't understand it. Anyways, that's my time, guys, for the show. I'm just looking through some of these Rockfin chats here. Denver says, I stopped going to jail when I stopped pimping by the name of Upgrade. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, outside of prison might resemble more of inside prison before the inside of the prison resembles the outside of prison. That's likely. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you over on the Octo show, which will be on Callin and on Twitter at noon. Okay? Okay. Oh, by the way, forgot to say this. If you want to support the show, and I really need your support. If you all want me to keep doing this show, I really need your support. Can't tell you enough times. And the main people that I know, there are plenty of people that support on Patreon, and I appreciate you. Thank you. There are people who support elsewhere. But outside of that, the main people that contribute to the show are Rich Diana and Obsolete Optics. And so, hint, hint, all y'all, the other people that are not Obsolete Optics and Rich Diana, hint, hint. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can Zelle me at kevinsamblum at protonmail.com. You can PayPal me at paypal.me/kevinsamblum. You can Venmo me at kevinsamblum. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. You can cash at me at Red Llama Music. Oh, by the way, I have a new song out. If you guys want to check out this new tune, it's up on Bandcamp. Where is my Bandcamp? Hopefully y'all will like it. I don't know. Take a listen. Check it out. Check that out. It's new. I'm working on a record right now. This is another song on the record, so y'all can check that out. It's on Rockfin. Okay, we'll link it on Twitter too. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate you. And I will see you later, noon o'clock. All right. Peace out.